This is a part 6 recording of inheritance sub-series. Here we focus on default constructor and destructor in derived class in an inheritance relationship. Derived classes default constructor can initialize not only the derived classes data members, but also it does initialize base class data members. Let us get into the code. Here I have a code which was created from scratch in part 5 recording the previous recording, where I have a class animal with the attribute name to hold the name string in a dynamic memory space. It has a default constructor, it has a custom constructor, it has a copy constructor, it has a copy assignment operator and insertion operator to display data, and it has destructor. We also have a free helper function to display the data in this format. I will be using this as a base class. I will not be making any changes on this class. I will be adding a derived class and demonstrate the default constructor and destructor in the derived class. Let me have a derived class called dog. We can create a derived class with in public mode inheritance from animal. In the derived class, I want to have an attribute which holds the a dog may be biting the people, and there is a way of keeping track of how many bites a dog has carried out in a month, in a year. So I want to actually have an attribute to keep a record of the bites, number of bites for current year and previous year and even previous year and so on. Maybe in this format 5, 10, 3. The number of years is not certain, so we want to store in dynamic memory space. Let me create an attribute for that. Call this number of bytes, and we also need to have an attribute to store the size, I mean number of elements in this array. Call it size. Let me create a constructor. I will only focus on the default constructor and destructor in this recording, and destructor. So default constructor can be used using the syntax of the default constructor, I mean regular constructor, that I have already discussed in previous recordings, which is name of the class. It doesn't have parameters, and inside the body of the function you actually set to the default values equals to null ptr and size equals to 0. And one thing you should notice here is that this derived class constructor actually does automatically call the base class constructor. The constructor and destructors are not inherited. Other functions are inherited, but constructor, destructor, and even this assignment operator are not inherited. Therefore, but they are actually called, automatically called by this derived class. For example, if I want to sometimes you can also manually call if you don't want the default execution. For example, by default it will call default constructor, but if you want to manually call default constructor, this is a syntax: colon followed by the name of the base class and the default constructor. This is the syntax, but not only default, you can also manually call another constructor. For example, if you pass parameters, it will call custom constructor, let's say ABC. Then it will actually invoke first this when this function is called, first it will invoke this constructor of the base class. In this case, if it was default, then it will invoke this function. In the current case where we have passed the argument, so it will invoke this function. Even if you pass null ptr, it will invoke, go ahead and invoke, call this function. So right, so it's possible that you can pass null ptr. In that case, it will invoke the second function. I will stick to default invocation of the default constructor of the base class. And the syntax for creating destructor is this one. You need to release memory. Here, but you don't need to release the memory of the base class, because this destructor will, once this logic is executed, at the end of the execution it will automatically call the base class destructor, which will actually release the dynamic memory space allocated for the name. So again, this derived class default constructor automatically calls the base class default constructor in the beginning. In the case of destructor, it automatically calls the base class destructor at the end. After all the logic in this curly braces is execution it completes, then the base class destructor is actually called. So we can see what is constructed, what is not constructed, by putting some text in the here. Let me call this animal default constructor, and let me put a similar statement in the custom constructor, custom animal custom constructor, and let me put it, I'm not working with this copy constructor at this point, so I just ignore it. Copy assignment, and destructor. This is going to be a base class animal class destructor. Let me also put similar shout statement in the derived class constructor. Is going to be doc class default constructor, and doc class destructor. So then we have we can let me ignore this thing here. If 0, I don't want to execute this course now, so put in this if block. Now let me create a doc class dg default, by invoking default constructor, and let me also create a dg1 by passing, let's say, Jackie. I think I need to also create a I need to have no, I don't need, because I'm not using number of bytes right now, so I don't need to have this array that holds a number of bytes. So let me have this function dg default constructor, and yeah, that's it. I think let me just put it, let me have another scope dg1. So what happens here is this dg is constructed, constructor will be called, but we will see what will be actually what functions will be invoked, or execution of which functions will be involved in the in creating this object. And at this point, this will be constructed, and this will be destroyed, and then after that at the end of the program this object will be destroyed. So let us see the output of this code. Again some syntactic issue here, semicolon. So you can see you know animal default constructor followed by this dog default constructor. So this was the result of these two constructors, animal constructor followed by the dog default constructor, were invoked when creating a default object. Main.cpp, let's just display this here. So when creating this object, both default constructor are invoked, but first animal class default constructor followed by the dog class default constructor, and after that inside here um, animal class default constructor again, because it was default object, and then after destructor. So if I make a little bit change to this code like this, instead of let's say here, instead of calling default, if I let's say manually call, maybe give some name, and also here I would also display the name. But I want to display a name only, it is not null ptr. So put in the parenthesis, if name is not null ptr, then name, otherwise not equals to. Right, so let us see the output of this code. Sorry. I think there is a problem, because I'm trying to access the base class name from the derived class, which is not allowed directly. So I need to get indirect access to the base class name. So let me let me have a protected getter function to get the name, and I could use this function in the derived class. So now let me try again. Sorry. So you can see the base the default constructor invoked outside, and then you know animal custom constructor, because it is manually called custom constructor, followed by the dog class default constructor for the first object. In the second object it is animal custom constructor, and dog default constructor, and this is the destructor, because in the destructor we have the statement to print the name. So this is the these two things are the invocation of the result of the invocation of the derived class destructor followed by the base class destructor. And after the curly braces ends, and this was the result of the derived class destructor invocation and the base class destructor invocation. So this is all I have to talk about these topics. I will discuss further the custom constructor and other things in the next recording, upcoming recordings. Thank you for watching this video.